would invite you on today, as we're standing, to turn with me to the book of Joshua, chapter 1. I want to go back and look at the book of Joshua, chapter 1. We said that in this month we're looking at relationship resolutions. And we talked last week about how we want to mature as disciples. We said that we wanted to follow that up with this sense in which we understand the importance of making a difference, making the most of our faith as people of God. And then we want to end this month or next week with how we can remain distinct, maintain our distinction as people of God. And so in this month where we are making relationship resolutions for 2018, I want to look at the book of Joshua chapter 1, and I want to begin this pericope right at verse 6. Joshua chapter 1 verse 6. It says, "Be strong and courageous, for you shall cause this people to inherit the land that I swore to their fathers to give them. Only be strong and very courageous, being careful to do according to all the law that Moses my servant commanded you. Do not turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may have good success wherever you go. This book of the law shall not depart from your mouth, but you shall meditate on it day and night, so that you may be careful to do according to all that is written in it. For then you will make your way prosperous, and then you will have good success. Have not I commanded you? Be strong and courageous. Do not be frightened. Do not be dismayed.
Yes.
For the Lord your God is with you.
Wow.
Wherever.
Yes.
Wherever.
Yes.
Wherever you are right now.
Yeah.
God is still there.
Amen.
However low you are right now.
Yeah.
God is still there. However perplexed and uncertain your situation may appear to be, God is still there. Wherever you go. Amen. You may be seated in God's presence. We said last week that we want to raise the question, and we will. What difference does our deliverance make? Does our deliverance make any difference? Look at somebody and say, does your deliverance make any difference? That's the question we pose on today.
Well,
Does being a person of faith, a child of God, a person, not just a member of the church, but a saved person who is being sanctified daily through life's trials and tribulations, and someone who is committed to discipleship, does being a person of faith make any difference in your life and in the lives of those who know you? That's what we want to wrestle with. How do we make the most of every opportunity that we have as people of faith? Does our deliverance make any deliverance? In 1909, against the canvas of discrimination and injustice, the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, otherwise known as the NAACP, was formed to develop a new portrait of hope due to the fact that some of America's citizens were treated with dignity while others suffered indignity. Some of America's citizens had enjoyed the privilege of being considered a whole person, while the ancestry of others experienced the disgrace of being considered 3/5 of a person. This striking contradiction of privilege at the expense of human dignity would now be met with a concentrated effort to pursue social and political and educational and economic equality for people of color and for all people. The determination to advance was now underway. It is noteworthy that the newly formed coalition was the National Association for the Advancement of Colored People, not the National Association for the Affluence or accumulation of colored people. This is important because while affluence and accumulation is certainly not a bad thing necessarily, affluence and accumulation of possessions without perspective and principle will stifle and even sabotage progress.
Well,
somebody missed what I just said. I said you and I can be affluent and have rich accumulation of possessions, but if we lack perspective and principle and prudence, then we'll stifle and even sabotage our own progress. Because you can have a whole lot of money and squander all of it. You can have connections and forfeit all of them. You can have opportunities and forfeit your own future if you don't have the proper perspective. And so individuals and churches and ethnic groups and broader communities and even nations that attempt to prosper in ways that are not meaningful, they forfeit their opportunity to advance. This is exactly where we find Joshua and the people of Israel. There was an entire generation of Israelites that had been emancipated from the shackles of Egyptian slavery, but due to their inability to remain yielded to God, the generation of Moses forfeited their opportunity to walk into the promised land. And so the Bible says in Joshua 1 that after the death of Moses, the servant of the Lord, it came to pass that the Lord spoke to Joshua, the son of Nun, the assistant of Moses, and said, Moses is now dead. Therefore, you get up and go over this Jordan, you and all of these people that are left, to the land that I've promised and that I'm giving to them. It says to us that God is interested in blessing us, but will not force us to enjoy his favor. It says that God has great things in store for us, but that he will not do for us what he demands that we do for ourselves. It says that God will handle what we cannot handle for ourselves, but he will never do for us what he has equipped us to do for ourselves. This means that God will open doors for us, but will require that we walk through the door. It means that God has and is the giver of possibility, but will require us to maximize our potential. You see, prior to his death, Joshua's predecessor Moses stood before the people of Israel and declared to them that the decision to participate in and be blessed by God and his agenda was their choice. And so that's why when you look back at Deuteronomy 30, you see and hear Moses saying, I call heaven and earth as witnesses today against you, Israel, that I, on behalf of God, God is saying, I've set before you life and death, blessing and cursing. Therefore choose life, that you and your descendants may live, and that you may love the Lord your God, and that you may obey his voice, and watch this, that you cling to him, because he is your life, and he is the length of your days, that you can dwell in the land that God swore to your fathers, to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. The choice we are given is actually a divine charge, and it's issued to give us the opportunity to develop our own sense of obligation. We are to make sure that the church in this perilous and perplexing time remains faithful to God and confident in his ability to effect meaningful change in and through us. And so the challenge we have in this moment in history, as we prepare to celebrate the legacy of Dr. King on tomorrow, is remembering that greatness is tied to our convictions and our choice to face with courage what others avoid.
That's right.
All right.
I said our moment in history is remembering that greatness is tied to our courage to face what others avoid. You see, we must choose to present ourselves with dignity rather than dishonor. We've got to choose to pursue excellence rather than settle for mediocrity. We must choose to distinguish ourselves rather than diminish ourselves. Let's make it real plain. We must understand, I've said before, that pajamas are designed for private spaces and not for public viewing. We must understand that prominence is not the same thing as significance. Somebody missed that because you think that because someone is a celebrity that they're significant.
All right. Come on.
Being prominent does not necessarily mean you have significance. It does not necessarily mean you're doing anything of merit. It just means you're famous.
Wow. Wow.
All right.
Yeah.
Kim Kardashian is famous.
Yeah.
She's prominent
Yes.
for taking pictures.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, she is.
Woo.
Yes, she is.
And if that's what you want, then go ahead.
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
But if you want more out of life than photo ops,
Talk.
All right.
then on King Weekend, you and I as people and as the people of God must remember that there's a difference between significance and promise. Proverbs says it this way, there's a way that seems right,
Yeah.
but the end will lead to your destruction. If you're not careful, if we begin to live life blindly and aimlessly, with our eyes closed, then it can lead us down a dangerous path. And so we have to choose life and cling to God because He is the length of our days. It's because He, as God, can teach us to number our days and assign them and attach to our days to wisdom. And I'm so glad that you're here today because there's a difference, church, between living boldly and living foolishly. Joshua was told to be strong and courageous, to be bold, to be audacious. But there's a difference between being bold and being boisterous and belligerent and obnoxious and foolish. Being loud does not necessarily mean you are bold.
All right.
Anybody can be loud and belligerent and obnoxious and foolish. But being bold requires wisdom and reverence for the God that we serve. And some people miss out on the fact that the audacity to believe that you can is foolishness. But the audacity to believe that God can through you is bold.
Well,
some people assume that they can and miss out on the fact that God can.
yeah.
Some people believe it is merely about their education, their economic status, their political affiliations. And yet there are others of us who know on today that if it had not been for the Lord on our side, we know that we would not be here right now. Some of us know that if God had not come through for us when He did, that we would have been through. Some of us know that God has been our refuge and our strength and a very present help in our times of trouble. Some of us are constantly learning how to be still and know that God can still be God, even in your tough and devastating situation. So I want to check the house real fast and find out, do I have anybody here that's lived long enough and you've been through enough that you know that no matter how bad it is right now, that you can still be still and know that God is still God? Anybody here here hurting and in pain and in dealing with hardship, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with bad finance, dealing with trouble in your family, dealing with heartache, dealing with disease, dealing with hardship, dealing with heartbreak, dealing with challenges, dealing with chaos, dealing with uncertainty, dealing with not knowing what's going to happen tonight or tomorrow or next week, but you've learned that you can be still because God can still be God regardless of where you are, what you're dealing with, and who's up against you. Anybody know that God is the Lord, and He's strong and mighty. Not some of the time, but all the time. In every situation, in all circumstances.
Yeah, Reverend.
So you can be still.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Even though you want to fret, you want to walk the floor, and you have walked the floor.
Be still.
I'm telling you, go home tonight and be still.
Reverend.
I know it's tough right now, but be still. Because I've learned if you sit still,
Yes, sir.
can't unpack all that right now because being still doesn't necessarily mean do nothing.
That's right, Doc.
But it means that you acknowledge nothing you can do by yourself can change your situation.
Talk.
It means that whatever I'm doing, I'm going to put it in the Lord's hands. All my concerns, put them in God's hands. So that He can put His hands on them and do with them and with you. Because you know what I've learned? I'm trying to move on, but you know what I've learned? Sometimes God won't do anything with the situation until He can do something with you. Somebody missed their shot. Somebody hasn't experienced your deliverance yet because God's trying to do something in you first.
Yeah.
If you have a bad attitude and God prospers you with more accumulation, you just gonna be somebody with more accumulation but have the same bad attitude. So God might be withholding some accumulation to get you to see He wants you to change that.
That's right. All right.
God might withhold some things, some opportunities, some open doors because He wants to get you together.
Talk.
So that way when you get all that He's prepared to give you, you don't discredit His name by telling everybody that you did it.
All right.
And so in our text, God is speaking directly to Joshua as the leader of this emerging generation of Israelites to in essence declare to him that anything that had to be done would be done with the Lord's help.
Yes, sir.
And it's through this sovereign assistance of God and His attachment to us and His abiding presence with us that we can accomplish all that we accomplish. And so God's abiding presence should then therefore be evidenced in the lives of believers. If God, and He did, delivered the people out of Egypt and was preparing them to go into the promised land, God is saying through Joshua as He addresses them later on, there ought to be some evidence. So He tells Joshua, here's what I want you to understand. Be strong and courageous.
Yes, sir.
I've delivered Israel, and now I want you to display a distinguishing posture and poise. And so I want you to understand that this is what you have to do. So look at the text. Verse 5, we go back and said, God told him, no man, no one can stand before you, because as I was with Moses, I'll be with you. And then he goes into verse 6 and says, be strong and courageous. Verse 7 says again, be strong and very courageous. So why does he repeat himself? Why is the Lord repeating himself to Joshua in this manner? So that Joshua can go back and do this same, and give this same message to the people of God. Why? Because we must learn, first of all, that we must exhibit courage for intimidating assignments. Right. If we're going to make the most of every opportunity in 2018, we're going to have to learn how to exhibit courage for intimidating assignments.
Well,
there are going to be some things that God charges you and I to do that if we rely in and of ourselves, in our own strength, on our own power, it's going to be intimidating.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so we've got to develop courage for intimidating assignments. Remember, God desires that we would be participants because as sovereign, he intervenes, but as participants, we remain involved.
All right.
He intervenes, but he wants us involved.
yeah.
So why is this vital? It's because only when we become and stay involved and invested in the process do we truly learn how to depend on the Lord. The psalmist says that we are his people and the sheep of his pasture, and as the sheep of his pasture, we are dependent on him for direction. And so, but with this in mind, church, there's an elephant in the text. Not in the room, but in the text. That we cannot ignore, which is that the direction that God is leading the people appears to be promising and problematic all at the same time.
Well,
Because the promise is that God said to Joshua, as I was with Moses, I'll be with you. The problem is that God provided his people with an inheritance that is currently, he's providing his people with an inheritance that is currently in possession of somebody else. Why would God allow Israel's inheritance of the promised land to be possessed by other nations? Joshua was given the assignment to lead the people of God and inherit a land that was already being occupied. Israel was given the task of taking up residence where it already existed for somebody else. God was about to demonstrate that he has plans and will fulfill those plans regardless of who stands in opposition to them. Israel was about to be showcased as the nation surrendered to a God who had the power to keep them and sustain them. So other groups and collections of people were in the land, but God was going to be with Israel. And I don't know about you, but I'm glad that there are other folk that might be standing in front of me. There have been folk in your life that have tried to stand in front of you. But if God is with you, then nothing and no one can stand in opposition to you. So he says, don't be afraid, be strong, be of good courage. Don't be afraid, nor be dismayed, for the Lord your God is with you wherever you go. Verse 6 says, you shall divide as an inheritance the land which I swore to your forefathers. See, inheriting land already occupied and establishing residence, as we said, where it's already existed, can only be accomplished if you and I have confidence in God to overcome what would overwhelm and intimidate us. We must maintain confidence and exercise courage to complete intimidating assignments and to overcome tough obstacles.
yeah.
This was not the first time, you remember, that Joshua had to show some courage for an intimidating assignment. Because Numbers highlights that prior to Moses' death and the ascension of Joshua, that Joshua, you remember, was sent out as a spy to observe and evaluate the promised land. And he came back, he and Caleb, with a report, and they went up, they said, we can go up and take possession, for we're well able to overcome, we've seen the land, and God will be with us. But everybody else in the group came back with a negative, discouraging, depressing, defeated report. 10 of the 12 shrunk in fear when they laid eyes on giants in the land. But Joshua and Caleb were resolute and had courage for their intimidating assignment because they were sure that God said that he would never leave them or forsake them. You see, we have to develop our ability to believe that if God said it, we can count on it. If God said that the Lord will establish you, then we can count on it. If God said, and give rain to your land in its season, and bless all the work of your hands, then you can count on it. If the Lord said that you shall lend to nations and not borrow, then you ought to be able to count on that. If the Lord said that he'll make you the head and not the tail, that you can be above and not beneath, then you can count on it. And someone here ought to testify that God is a God we can count on. Anybody ever had God show up and demonstrate and prove to you over and over again that you can count on him? That he's trustworthy, that he's worthy of all of your trust, because he can be counted on in your toughest moments. Every good gift, every perfect gift
From above.
is from above and comes down from the Father of lights, with whom there's no variation or shadow of turning. And I remember what Malachi said, because Malachi said it this way. He said, try me. He said on behalf of the Lord, bring me all that you possess. And if you prioritize me and bring me all that you have, I'll bless you so good and so much that you won't even have room to receive what I have in store for you. So we've got to have courage for intimidating signs. I'm really almost done. But secondly and finally, we have to, if deliverance, if God taking us out of where we were, changing our lives, saving our lives, bringing us out of darkness into his marvelous light, if any of that's going to make any difference in a tangible and concrete way, not only are we going to need to have courage for intimidating assignments, but we're going to need to demonstrate a commitment to a righteous approach. We're going to have to be committed to a righteous approach. You see, this is important. Standards ensure success. Not supplies. Standards ensure success when you're God's child. You see, God will take care of the supply. So, but what God says, I want you to uphold my standard.
That's right.
God will provide. He'll make provision, but he wants you to have a righteous approach. Only be strong and courageous, it says in verse 7, that you may observe to do according to, watch this, the law which Moses my servant commanded you. And here it is, don't turn from it to the right hand or to the left, that you may prosper wherever you go.
Don't turn.
Did you all catch that?
Don't turn from.
Their prosperity was tied to the standard by which they lived. Their principle, it said, observe all that I commanded you and don't deviate from it.
Yes, sir.
Because this book of the law should not ever depart from your mouth. But not only that, you should meditate in it and on it day and night. Notice that you can't speak about it if you don't spend time in it.
All right, yes indeed.
I can't testify to God's goodness if I'm never reading about God's goodness. We said this last week. If you and I, in Bible study, if you and I only eat the Word of God on Sunday morning,
Talk.
think about what that says about your spiritual health. Think about it this way. Would you brush your teeth once a week? Come on. Would you take a bath once a week? Would you put on deodorant just one time a week? Would you comb your hair just one time a week. But we'll come to church and open our Bible one time a week. And then wonder why we're stressed. Said last week, I'm not above being stressed, I've been stressed. But here's the difference. I'll stay stressed if I don't pray and read my Bible. I'll remain stressed. But watch this. I'll have a sense of peace even in a moment of great catastrophe and pain and heartache. I'll still know that the Lord is with me if I'm eating this more than one time.
Yes, sir.
Because that means I'm malnourished spiritually.
Eat the word.
If I'm not consuming His word more than one time. And so we've got to have a commitment to a righteous approach. So the book of the law must not depart from our mouth. We've got to meditate in it and on it day and night, that we may, here it is, take action, observe, to do according to all that is written in it. For then your way will be prosperous, and you will have good success. A righteous standard, not a relative standard. You see, we live in a day and age, and I'm almost done, I really am, where morality is relative. And so people hold up moral relativity. People hold up morals, but they're relative. They're relative to who's in office.
Right.
They're relative to which political party is in control. They're relative to the norms and the mores of the current culture. They're relative to which artist is popping right now. They're relative to what's popular in the broader culture right now. They're relative to what's acceptable in American culture and what's not. They're relative to what's going on outside of the church. But how many know that those of us inside the church, if our deliverance, if our faith, and I'm almost done, is going to make any difference? We've got to have a standard that's righteous. Standard. I'm going to upset some people, but I need to say it. That means that it does not matter who's in office, black or white. As a person of faith, I can't let anybody outside of Jesus Christ be the person by which I pattern my life. This is going to upset some folks. I love President Obama. I respect President Obama. But that don't mean I had to agree with everything.
All right.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
See, I already made half of us already too.
Yes, sir.
You're talking about President Trump now. You dare open your mouth and mention President Obama. Why am I mentioning him? Not to disparage him. I believe that God put him in office.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But as a pastor, I've got to also declare that not necessarily everything from the Oval Office is going to fit for the child of God.
Talk.
Yes, sir.
That's right. Flesh.
I'm almost done. But if we're not careful,
Yes, sir.
and Dr. Broussard touched on this Friday morning at Black Title. If we're not careful, we'll be eliminating
Yes, we will.
the presence
Yes.
of distinction as the people of God.
Yes, sir.
God made man and woman, and He did it that way on purpose.
Yes.
Because there are some distinctions that we have. You know what? I'm gonna just say it this way, and I'm gonna be done because half of you all are really upset with me right now. That's
Bring it on. Bring it on.
but hear me when I say this.
Talk, son.
There is nothing that a real man likes more than to see a woman that knows she's a woman.
All right.
All right.
All right.
Talk.
And there's nothing that a real woman likes more than to see a man that knows he's a man.
All right.
Because a man is most masculine
Yes.
when the woman is most feminine.
Yes, sir.
Now, is Pastor saying we got to go back 50 years and
Yes,
every
sir.
woman needs to go back to the kitchen, back to the house? No, that's not what I'm saying. I am saying that we ought to be glad we have grandmothers that did stay in the kitchen, that did impart value.
Yeah.
We ought not let that be a badge of dishonor. It ought to be one of dignity. They made the most of the opportunities they had.
Yeah.
But what I'm saying is today,
Today,
if
Don.
we're not careful,
Yeah.
we'll let broad popular culture dictate how we ought to behave and act inside the church.
Yes, sir. Yes,
Help yourself, Reverend.
sir.
Yeah, you're right.
I'm not saying you can't enjoy the culture to a certain extent. I'm simply saying we can't forget who we are.
Yeah. All right now.
Because God is asking, demanding rather, that we have a righteous approach, that we represent Him,
Yep.
that we have a distinction to what we do.
Yes, sir.
So I love everybody, but I cannot sanction everything.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right.
I know I'm risking losing some people.
Talk.
All right.
But I gotta be righteous.
Yes.
See, Israel was going into a place where they were doing all kinds of stuff in the land.
Yeah.
But as God's people, they were there to show everybody around them what it looks like when God's operated in your life. I really don't.
Yeah.
So who I married at New Sunlight is going to represent what I understand
Wow.
the Bible says about marriage.
Yeah.
Amen.
I'm going to meet and love on and pray with anybody who comes. But we can't sanction everything just because society does it.
All right.
I cannot, as Israel was challenged to do, I cannot go into the world and fit in.
Yeah.
I've got to show the world the pattern by which I live.
Yeah.
Not perfection, but difference. I started preaching in college because I wanted to go to homecoming.
Yeah.
Don't act like you can go to your homecoming and have a good time.
All right.
I wanted to have a good time too. But now I was preaching. So I had the challenge of walking the halls, looking at the same people that had been looking at me, but they looked at me differently now.
Yeah.
So
Stand.
when I showed up to the party, I was looked at differently now.
Yeah.
Even if all I did was stand on the wall like this. What's he doing? Who's he looking at?
Yeah.
What's she doing?
Yeah.
Stand up.
So I had to get used to that. But you know what I learned? Because I'm being very transparent today, and I really am done. It took me about 7 years to embrace the fact that I had to be different because of my calling.
Yeah.
Because for about 7 years, I resented privately that other people that were doing some of the same stuff that either I had done or wanted to do would do it in front of me, or once they knew they would try to hide it, but would blast me if they caught me doing it.
Wow.
All right.
Same classmate.
Yeah.
And that bothered me for a while until I realized please
Yeah.
people.
Yeah. Yeah. Yes, sir.
But I was called by the Lord.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
And as long as I was aiming to please Him,
Yes, sir.
then it wouldn't matter if I disappointed somebody else.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
But everybody has learned that as long as you aim to please the Lord,
Yeah.
other folk might get upset. Other folk might get beside themselves. Other people may not like you for who you are and what you stand for. But you're not there to please them.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Yeah.
Flat-footed.
Yes, sir.
Flat-footed.
So that's why we have to be righteous
Yeah.
Flat-footed, Doc.
in our approach.
Yeah.
Because folk are going to get upset in the church regardless.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Flat-footed, man.
If we feed 100 families, they're going to say, how come it wasn't 200?
All right. All right. All right. All right.
Flat-footed, Doc.
All right.
So you got to release
Yes.
and
Yes.
remove any resentment you have
Yes, sir.
from outside
Yes,
observation.
sir. Yes, sir.
Not because we don't want who's out there to come in, but because when they get here, we want them to know that we're not faking it.
All right. All right. All right. All right.
Because they can tell.
Yeah, they
And that's why many will say, I'm not going because it's hypocrites.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Because as the people of God, as believers, and I'm really good, we have to have courage.
Yes,
to be
yes, yes.
We got to be committed to being righteous in our approach. If they can come to church and still get everything they get out there, they have no reason to come to church.
That's right. That's right.
If you and I can meet every Sunday
Yes, sir.
and do nothing more than what is done out there, we have no reason to meet.
Yes,
We
sir.
have no reason to gather. But if we come and gather in the presence of God, we ought to get something different than what we get out there.
Yes, sir.
We ought to receive the good news that the Lord is able, despite what you're going through. That God does love you where you are, but He doesn't want to leave you where you are.
That's good. Good.
And so, what difference does your deliverance make? When God brought you out of darkness and brought you into the marvelous light, what difference has that made?
Wow.
Just think about that for a minute as I prepare to end this. What difference has deliverance made in your life? When people hear you and see you, even if they resent what you stand for,
Wow.
do they have a sense of respect for you? Because I've learned this too. If folk are willing to do anything in your presence, they don't respect you much.
That's right.
See, when I go to the barbershop and some of the guys in there talking and they don't know that I'm a pastor, sometimes my barber, he'll do that. He'll just kind of let guys just go. He'll be like, hey man, listen, chill out, calm down. Brother Al is in here. And I always tell them, hey man, I'm just here to get a haircut. You know, I'm a man like you are. So I'm never going to think I'm above them. But without saying anything, I demonstrate to them a difference. Not perfection, a difference. I'm a man with flaws and bad decisions and mistakes too.
Yes, sir. Yes,
But I
sir.
demonstrate I can have a conversation
Yes,
without
sir.
cursing somebody out.
All right now.
Talk.
All right.
So when they find out, they say, oh, I'm sorry, man. Hey, listen, my fault. I'm like, hey, man, it's cool. But I appreciate the fact that they recognize that I represent something.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
And again, it's not perfection. We'll be perfect in heaven. But it's distinction. And as the people of God, the question we must continually ask is, does our deliverance
Yes.
make any difference in our lives? What does it do with our attitude? What does it do for our courage? And what does it do for our commitment to living a righteous life as we try to represent God in all that we do and in who we are? Amen.
Amen.
Let's stand to your feet.